One.
All right. Good evening, Cresswell. This is our Cresswell City Council meeting via telephonic and YouTube live streaming meeting for May 11th, 2020. We begin this evening with our roll call, and I will proceed by doing that as it's listed on our agenda tonight in alphabetical order. Councilor Castilla.
Otto Castilla, present.
Councilor Drago.
Councilor Drago, present.
Council President Knudsen.
Council President Knudsen, present.
Councilor Inman.
Councilor Inman, present.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Parshu, present.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Councilor McReynolds Jr. present.
And Mayor Zetterval is present, so we have 100% attendance. Thank you so much, folks. So at this point, we move on to number one, which is the public forum. Is there anybody in City Council chambers who wishes to speak? Or has there been any written correspondence that might be presented at this time?
No, there hasn't.
Okay, hearing none, that takes care of the public forum. We will go ahead and move on to the mayor's report. So I'm going to go ahead and just read out what I have here tonight. Since March 23rd, 2020, when the City of Cresswell Declaration of Emergency was adopted by the City Council, the regular daily operations of running the city have dramatically been changed. Our city staff has been working very hard to find ways to continue the regular business and continued operation of the city. I want to congratulate our city manager, Michelle Amberg, for her tireless efforts to manage our staff and manage our city in the times that we face right now with this pandemic and everything that comes along with it. So thank you, Michelle. I have continued to take part in a large number of phone conference calls with a variety of state, regional, and local agencies, as well as local businesses. Everyone who has taken part has expressed their personal thoughts and experiences about this pandemic. The stories that are shared are both heartwarming and heart-wrenching. Stories like these can also be found here in Cresswell too. My efforts to bring help to the community and our small businesses has increased, and my efforts will not stop. Our city staff is working hard to get as much information as possible out to the Cresswell community, and we are putting that on the Cresswell City of Cresswell Facebook page. This is where the most current and most up-to-date information will be presented to our city, and great job staff for keeping up with that. As many of you probably have heard, Lane County has applied for to the state of Oregon to enable them to go to phase 1 of the governor's plan to reopen Oregon. If approved, Lane County will have to follow a very specific guidance to monitor, test, and track cases of the virus. There will also be specific guidance for the employers and employees and how to conduct their businesses and how to see them in the reopening process of Cresswell businesses. However, that will be no earlier than May 15th, 2020. Somebody's got a mic open. Can we close that mic? We're getting some feedback. I think it looks like Martha. So no earlier would be, the earliest opening would be May 15th, 2020. There will be guidance for outdoor recreation, restaurants, bars, breweries, brew pubs, wineries, and tasting rooms, retail stores, and it looks like the retail stores are going to be opening back up via executive order from the governor as well. And personal services, which could be anything from nail and hair salons, massage therapy, tattoo parlors, and gyms. It is my honor to have been offered the opportunity to weigh in with my Cresswell-specific comments on the draft documents that has been provided now by the governor's office. In conclusion, my heart continues to go out to each and every Cresswell individual, family, and business that are still being negatively impacted due to the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. These people are our friends and neighbors. If we can safely offer some assistance to them or can patronize their local businesses, please do so. They greatly appreciate it. Cresswell will get through this, and we'll get through it together. Crestwell isn't known as the friendly city for nothing. Be safe, stay healthy, and stay at home to save lives. So that concludes the mayor's report. We go on to correspondence. So councilors, have we read through the correspondence? Is there any comments about it? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. All items in the consent calendar are presented routine and they will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If there are any specific discussions about an item, the council requests the item to be removed, we will have that conversation separately. So is there any items that would like to be considered and removed and considered separately, councilors? Okay, hearing none, I am entertaining a motion, please.
I move
Make the
that we
motion.
approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, Councilor Drago has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
I heard Misty Inman first, Councilor Inman first. So we have a motion on the floor and has been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we will go ahead and proceed with the vote, and I will proceed in a roll call fashion again alphabetically. Councilor Castillo. Could you please repeat? I did not hear that, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Drago.
Yes.
Councilor President Knudsen.
Yes.
Councilor Inman.
Yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Yes.
Councilor Prochu.
Yes.
Okay. And Mayor Zetterball also votes yes. Is there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. And that moves us to item 5, which is our administrative report. And I will turn that over to our manager, Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on the administrative report is the bills. I'd be happy to do my best to answer any questions you might have on those at this time. If there's no questions about the bills, then the next item behind that is the Lane County Sheriff's calls for service. Is there any questions that you wish to ask Sergeant Denham?
I have one, Counselor Knudsen here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I see a measure 11. Could you elaborate at all on that?
Yeah, that was a sex crime report that we took that didn't actually happen in the city or even in the county. So it basically comes in as a report from somebody that lives in Crestwell, but occurred in another county. So we take the initial report and we'll do an interview for them and then ship that off to that county for the remaining follow-up.
Okay.
So
thank
not
you.
technically something that happened in Crestwell, but something that we were called for.
Right. Okay, second question, I guess along those lines and also domestic violence. Since a lot of us are staying home, I've just been hearing a lot of nationwide reports about domestic violence being up, child abuse being up. And I just wondered if you had any take on that and if you were experiencing any increase in calls and cases regarding that.
Across the county we have been, but as far as Crestwell goes, anything that comes in like that would be like a child abuse or a domestic violence type call would be listed under those person crimes. So we haven't really seen much of a change since February, between February, March, and April, as far as the amount of calls or the amount of case numbers we take. So that is a good thing, but as far as the rest of the county, we have seen an uptick in our dispute calls coming in. I guess the frequency is that they're at different times of day now, whereas usually we would get those in the evenings or on the weekends. Now they're coming in midday, any day of the week. As far as child abuse calls, we haven't been getting any of those very much. I think that's mainly probably because we get most of those referrals from the DHS system when the schools are reporting it, either to us or the DHS system, and that's not happening. So that is part of the lack of any of those types of calls. My guess is that once the kids go back to school, maybe in September, we're probably going to get an onslaught of stuff that happened during this.
Hmm. That's very concerning. There seems to
It is.
be a lack of, just because there isn't any reporting doesn't mean it's not happening. And yeah, because kids aren't in school, nobody's there to check in on them and to report it to the authorities. Yeah, I guess that really, really concerns me, and I wonder what we could do better to help our community.
And I think we just, as the sheriff's office keeps putting out the reporting systems and things like that, we just encourage family members and others that believe that something's going on or think that something's going on to make sure that they can report that. And the DHS system is still working, so they can report those anonymously through that system, or they can report them straight to the sheriff's office. And that's an ongoing thing, so that doesn't go away. It's just that usually that's not the way that we get our reports of any type of child abuse. It's mainly we get it through the educational system, having something that's told to a counselor or a teacher or somebody in the system, and then we get the referral that way. So I don't know how to fix that other than educate people.
Right. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'd like to ask a question if I could.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Prochu.
As always, just want to do our usual check-in on our local transient homes population.
They're still tracking the same, still hanging out at the same places. They all seem to be doing just fine. This hasn't affected them at all. It doesn't seem.
Any increases? Have you noticed any influx of people that might be looking at Cresswell for refuge?
No, we haven't seen any. So we've still got the same individuals we've had, and there's been no change in that. Most transient types that come in quickly leave because there's really not much is open, and there's nothing for them. So nobody's really stayed around.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, go ahead with the rest of your report.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my computer shut down.
No,
The next item is the city attorney's report. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, hearing none. The code enforcement report is for 2 months. We didn't have a March report, so this is the March and April combined report. One of the things that you'll notice is a cleanup that was done at 95 5th Street. You can see the before and after pictures. Church really assisted in cleaning that up. She is a hoarder, and we'll probably have to go in and assist her again in the future. Right now, we're starting to ramp up for the Moxus weed abatement season. I believe the first notice has already gone out on that, and we'll be giving 2 more notices before we actually start the abatement. Are there any questions about code enforcement?
Michelle, I have a quick question in regards to the abatement process or the weeds and so forth. What is the deadline for having those cleaned up? I don't recall.
I believe it's off the top of my head. It's, I think, June 15th.
That's what I had in my head too, so that's what I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, middle of June. They will receive letters, and there will be notices in the paper, and we'll send out notices on Facebook, and we'll do our best to get the information out far and wide before we actually start abating.
Okay, very good. I think Councilor Castilla had a question as well.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick question on the home on 95 Fifth Street. Was that complaint driven or was that the work of the code enforcement officer?
I think it was the work of the code enforcement officer. I don't think the neighbors were complaining, but he drove by and saw the lady, and he just developed a kind of a friendship with her over time, and got the right folks involved. And it was a process, because as a hoarder, you know, it's very difficult to get a hoarder to release their property. So it did take some time. It did take some relationship building, and it probably will, though, get back to this again. So he's going to keep an eye on it and continue to talk to her.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the last item is building permits.
Sorry, I didn't speak up quick enough. I had a quick question about the code enforcement.
Okay.
So a lot of it's complaint driven, then I know a lot of it is just produced by our code enforcement officer. But when people see something like, I know a hot topic right now is basketball hoops blocking driveways or sidewalks, or trailers or cars that are blocking right-of-ways. How do people report that?
Well, they can either call City Hall and we'll assist them, or they can go online, and on the city's webpage, we have a link to a reporting system that they can go into, and they can report it that way. I believe tomorrow we have a meeting with an improved reporting system that ties into the current one that we have, to see if we can add a texting feature. But again, I don't know very much about that yet. We have a presentation tomorrow. So we're trying.
Okay, well, yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. There's been a real uptick on the reporting of basketball hoops and such, because frankly, people are home and they're walking around and they have a lot of different mobility issues with the basketball hoops, and kind of when one gets reported, all of them, it just sort of cascades. So Jerry did he did go around and he did let people know that they weren't supposed to be in the street because they cause a hazard, and they're not supposed to be in the sidewalk because they block the sidewalk from people who have mobility issues. And so, yeah, people are starting to be upset with that. Initially, our strategy was to.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Michelle.
I think we lost Michelle.
All right, I'm back. Like my screen keeps shutting down.
Oh.
In the background, the thought was we would always confiscate them, because anything that's blocking the right of way typically gets confiscated if it's a hazard. But I think this time around we're going to instead be issuing citations. So we'll see how that works. I think it's a little bit better than just taking somebody's property.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Anything else? Okay, well, that concludes the administrative reports.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Michelle. Really appreciate it. That moves us on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is the council action items, which begins with letter A, which is the system development charges rate study final draft report. And that will be issued by Mr. Piper here in just a moment. This one does have a public hearing, so I will go ahead and read through the script that I've been supplied. The city of Creswell is holding a public hearing, which has been properly noticed to receive public comments and testimony on the 2020 water, wastewater, stormwater, transportation, and park system development charge methodology updates. If you are attending the meeting and wish to speak, please fill out a form located at the table out by the door. This is in City Council chambers. and turn it into the city recorder for the record. So at this point, I will open the hearing and ask, is there any speakers in the council chambers that would be willing to testify at this point?
No one is present.
Okay, very good. Then we will go ahead and proceed with your staff report, Mr. Piper.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Give me just a second here to put my video back on. And I want to share my desktop with y'all. In the packet, you received the draft report from our consultant, Mr. Steve Donovan. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight. He had a conflict in scheduling. Seems there are a lot of cities doing the same thing that we are, and that is looking at our SDC charges. He did mention in his presentation to the Planning Commission, this is something that's usually on a 5-year schedule every year. And that, as you're well aware, capital improvement plans change often, and so do the people within the city using the infrastructure. So these things need to be done on a more consistent basis. That's good for him. That's his sole job, is to look at master planning documents and calculate a fee that reflects those documents. I would like to go over Steve's presentation. He did this for the Planning Commission. I'm going to share my desktop. Hopefully you all can see it, and I'll walk you through it. All right, can everybody see my desktop?
Jim, I don't see anything.
I'm sorry, I don't either. And last time I did, it came up automatically.
All right, let me try that again. Okay, I skipped a step. I'm sorry for that. Here we go. Should come up here in a minute. All right. Can you see that now?
Yes, it does seem to be somewhat of a, there we go, that's much better to me.
Yes, I can see it.
All right, I will walk you through the presentation that Mr. Donovan gave the Planning Commission on April 16th. This is a very high level presentation of what is in the draft report. The draft report is on the City of Crestwell's website, and if folks need help finding it, just contact me here at City Hall, and I'll help you get the plan. What Steve wanted to talk about is what SDCs are not, and some of you may have heard this. I think all of you may have heard this at one point. We started this back in January, as you recall, and we're coming to the final stages of this. He talked about the schedule for updating the SDCs, the capital improvement plans. Those are found in our city's master plans. The Crestwell's current SDC methodology and fees, and how we stack up against our neighboring communities. Because as you know, that can either encourage, discourage development. So SDCs are a one-time fee on new development, and they pay for future expansion. They pay for future growth, essentially. ORS, Oregon Revised Statutes 223.299, defines the two types of SDCs. There's a reimbursement fee that essentially allows us, the city, to recover the costs with capital improvements that already have been done. And then an improvement fee that's for future capital improvements. SDCs are not charged to ratepayers or taxpayers. They do have an impact on infrastructure development and the composition of the future tax base. And an SDC may incentivize certain types of development as we've found. And the SDCs must be calculated based on the methodology defined in Creswell Ordinance 417, Section 5. So, and then the council's policy on SDC pricing has to strike a balance between the philosophy of growth pays for growth. And in this slide, you can see the timeline. We kicked off on February 3rd. We did the public notices. Here we have the first hearing on May 11th. The Planning Commission was advised on the 16th of April. And Steve, our consultant, went into why we need capital improvement plans. And again, there's an Oregon revised statute. There's a law that says prior to the establishment of an SDC, a local government shall prepare a capital improvement plan, public facilities plan, master plan, or comparable plan. And as you know, over the last 3-4 years, we have been working on new master plans for water, sewer. We just did the transportation system plan. And that'll come up as you go later into the slides. Here's a slide that really hit home. The current methodology, the most recent one that the city has adopted was in 2006. That was the streets master plan. In the column where you see comments, it lists the year of the new water master plan, wastewater master plan, and the TSP, and the Parks and Open Space master plan. So we have a proposed SDC fees, and you can see the two pie charts side by side. Our current SDCs in total are $12,266. The proposed SDCs will go up to $16,671. This is on a typical single-family dwelling. When we looked at our SDCs that we've collected already, we've collected quite a bit of water SDCs. And so looking at what our plans are for the future, we're actually going to reduce the water SDC, or we recommend that the city council reduce the water SDC based on the list of capital improvements and what SDCs we're projecting will come in through system development charges in the future. As you see, streets is going to increase significantly. Again, we just did the recent transportation system plan. And as I show the slides that Steve had presented for the current SDCs and compared to neighboring communities, you'll see that we were really low on our transportation system plan. Currently, Creswell is sitting at kind of in the middle there for water SDCs at $5,277 per typical single-family dwelling. Again, we're going to recommend a decrease to $2,405, which would put us just south of Springfield on this list. For sewer, we're currently sitting at $4,746. The proposed is $6,783, which will put us just above Coburg, right at Coburg, within $33 of what Coburg is charging. We do not currently have a stormwater SDC. However, we are working on the stormwater master plan, and we have put in enough stormwater infrastructure that we can collect based on the capacity the future capacity that will be served with the current stormwater that we have put in in the city already. And here's the streets SDC at $627. It's the lowest in the neighborhood, and we are looking at a proposed $3,749 SDC, which would put us right in between Eugene and Springfield. And overall, we're sitting really low at 16 for parks, we're sitting at $1,616, and the proposed is $3,439, which puts us somewhere between Junction City and Cottage Grove, just south of Cottage Grove. And here is the overall. So the total of all those SDCs, currently we're at $12,266 for a single family dwelling. And the proposed overall is $16,671, which is just above Cottage Grove, just south of Springfield. And I believe Cottage Grove is looking at their SDCs as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come in pretty close to what we're proposing. Again, I wish Mr. Donovan was here to answer more of the technical questions, but I can help field those questions and have him get back to the council. We will have another public hearing and some draft resolutions for the new SDC fees.
Okay, councilors, do you have any questions of Mr. Piper? I don't hear anything, so we will go ahead and proceed.
Thank you.
At this point,
Oh.
testimonies to be. Roberta, do you have anything in the written testimony at all?
Do not.
Sorry, Mayor, we lost
Okay,
you for a
very
second there. No, nothing from in written testimony.
Okay, very good. Then we will go ahead and proceed on with councilors. I'm going to go ahead and ask if there are any further questions at this time on this item, action item. And if there are none, I will entertain a motion, please.
We need to close the public.
Oh, there is no motion at this point, I guess so. Now we are to move forward with this as a draft and make public comments and addendums to this before it comes back for action item. Is that accurate?
This was an item, we had to have a public hearing on it.
Mhm.
And since we didn't have a work session this month to do that, we brought it to you as part of the city council meeting, but it does not require anything at this time. It's
Okay.
informational and also the public hearing. The vote on it will be at the next city council meeting.
Okay, very good.
Yes,
Now I
Mr.
understand
Donovan.
clearly. Okay, so again, one other opportunity, councilors, any further corrections or addendums or suggestions for this before we can move on from this item? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing on this item. And that moves us to item 6B, which is liquor license renewals for 2021 and the recommendations on and recommendations to Oregon Liquor Control Commission. This
Lost him.
move through with the script on this. The city council is holding a public hearing which has been properly noticed to receive public comments and testimony of the governing body's recommendation to either approve or deny the renewal of annual liquor licenses for the fiscal year 2020-21. Anyone in the chambers there to provide public testimony then? Has anybody else entered the room?
There's not.
Okay, very good. Then I will go ahead and open the hearing, and the city of Creswell wishes to hear from everyone who is interested in commenting on the annual liquor license renewal. I will go ahead and see that Berta Tharp is the staff person assigned to this. So I will turn that over to Ms. Tharp.
Oh, I'm over here.
Roberta, do you have a microphone?
She's on her way.
Okay, very good.
You don't have to.
No, I don't have a microphone. These are just,
Okay,
these are just the annual liquor license renewals that we do every year for anyone in the city that has a liquor license. The OLCC requires a recommendation from the governing body. And that's all this is.
okay, very good. Counselors, are there any questions? I'm seeing an awful lot of shaking heads for no. Counselor Castillo, did you have a comment?
Yes, sir.
Go
I
ahead.
have just one, on the count for Crestwell, it shows that there's 23 liquor licenses. And then below, whoops, I lost my place. I believe it's 22. Did we lose one?
Oh, I didn't even count them. I didn't count them, but not that I know of. Can I borrow this? 1, 2, 3.
Says count for Crestwell 23. And
Could it be the new one that they're requesting?
It appears,
I count
it appears there's
23.
23 by my count.
Okay, well, it says I reviewed the supply of OCLC list of 22 liquor license renewals. I was just curious if we lost someone.
Are you reading that on the agenda item summary?
Yes, District 3 renewals, page 2. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with my laptop over here. And then the memorandum to Roberta from Sergeant Denham, he is saying 22 liquor license renewals set to expire. Of the 23 listed, the majority raised no concerns. So I'm just curious as what's up with 23.
Oh, maybe, well, no, because there is 23. That's, the new one is the next agenda item summary.
Oh, is that related to that one?
Well, I count 23 on this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I count 23. I did it again.
I would say that's just a Scrivener's error.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
That most probably is.
Okay,
all
thanks.
right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further comment or question on this item? Okay, hearing none, I am hoping for a motion here.
I'll make the motion that we renew or we approve the renewal of the liquor licenses.
Okay, the motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'm not sure who was first. I think I heard Councilor Inman, so I will say Councilor Inman was the second. Is there any, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further comments, councilors? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and we will call for the vote, and I will read through the roll call vote in alphabetical order. Councilor Castillo.
Alonso Castillo, I vote yes.
Councilor Drago.
Counselor Drago, yes.
Councilor President Knudsen.
Counselor Knudsen, yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Counselor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prochu, yes.
And Mayor Zetterval also votes yes. Is there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. That moves us to item 6C, new liquor license applications. And this one looks like this is where Ms. Tharp again.
Okay, this is a new application for a liquor license that they're opening an eatery down at 285 East Oregon Avenue, which is where the city hall used to be located, down between Banner Bank and AMPM.
Is this the location where the One Grow had their coffee shop?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. I thought it was.
And they've applied to sell malt beverages, wine and cider, distilled spirits for consumption on the premises. And then you can also take, covered can take growlers off the premises.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I assuming that they will be offering food as well?
They will. I believe sandwiches. Yeah.
Okay, counselors, is there any question for Ms. Tharp? Okay, hearing none, I am entertaining a motion, please.
Thank you.
Counselor Knutson here, I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I move that the city council approve the liquor license application for Banh Mi and Brews LLC as presented.
Very good. A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor McReynolds. So we have a motion made and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and call for the vote. And again, we will do this via roll call in alphabetical order. Councilor Castillo.
Alonso Castillo, I vote yes.
Councilor Drago.
Counselor Drago, I vote yes.
Councilor President Knudsen.
Counselor Knutson, yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Counselor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prochu votes yes.
And Mayor Zetterval also votes yes. Is there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, I will declare the vote as unanimous passage, and we will move on to item number 6D, Resolution 2020-06, a resolution to assess abatement costs and establish a lien at 231 North Mill Street for abatement costs. Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. As you may recall, we went through quite a long process to abate a situation over on Mill Street. That was the old Whistle Stop location. As time went on, different things happened on that property, and the initial amount that we thought that we would invest in that cleanup was reduced dramatically. Regardless of that, we have not received a payment for the abatement. Our nuisance abatement policy allows the city to go through a process to place a lien on the property in order to receive the money that was put forward for the abatement. The abatement costs came to a total of $5,670.19. Tonight, we're asking that the city council approve a resolution that would allow us to put a lien against the property in that amount. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I think I would like to ask a question. It just came to mind.
Go ahead, Councilor Prochu.
So what is the overall anticipated cost of processing the lien and getting a judgment and collecting and all of that stuff? I guess the question that I have is it worth it?
Yeah, I believe it's worth it. What we do is we have a service. We turn the address over to the service, and then when the property is sold, we get the money at the time of sale. We don't actually pursue it as a bad debt.
Okay.
It's just a lien against the property, yeah.
Okay, councilors, are there any other questions?
And interest accrues that during that whole time too, correct?
I don't think so.
Counselors, any further questions? Go ahead, Counselor Castillo, go ahead.
The cost was alluding to, can those be tagged on to that lien?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
The legal, if there's any other legal fees that Councilor Prachu had just mentioned, can those be sued as well? Can they be added to it?
The, our municipal, code does not allow, it's very specific about what costs we can place in the lien. And we have done everything to capture all of the costs that are legal according to our municipal code.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Counselors, any further questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm entertaining a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay, go ahead, Counselor Prochu.
Sorry, I had to break the silence there. I move that the city council approve resolution 2020-06, a resolution to assess abatement costs and establish lien as presented.
Okay, motion has been read. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Thank you, Councilor McReynolds. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we will go ahead and call for the vote via roll call and alphabetical order. Councilor Castillo.
Alonso Castillo, I vote yes.
Councilor Drago.
Counselor Drago, yes.
Councilor President Knudsen.
Counselor Knutson, yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Councilor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Councilor Prochu.
Councilor Prachu votes yes.
And Mayor Zetterball also votes yes. Is there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. And that moves us to item 6E, which reads award contract for construction of A Street improvements.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we are planning on redoing A Street and bringing it up to city standards. This is a project that has involved several of the departments here at the city, as well as our city engineer. The bid, the request for bid was open. We allowed it to go even a few more days due to the COVID-19 impacts that we thought might make it difficult for bidders to submit a bid. The bids were submitted to West Tech Engineering, who tallied them and has made a recommendation on awarding the bid. And we ask that you would take that into consideration and make it a bid award tonight.
Great, thank you, Manager. Councilors, are there any questions of this? Well, I see a lot of shaking heads no, so seeing and hearing none, I am entertaining a motion, please.
I will do it.
Thank you, Councilor Drago.
I move that the city council award the contract for construction of A Street improvements to Delta Construction Company and authorize the city manager, Michelle, to execute all documents associated with this award.
Very good, thank you. Okay, the motion has been made, Council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, it sounded like Councilor Inman. Is that accurate? Okay,
Yes.
very good. All right, a motion has been made and seconded, so we will go ahead and ask for further questions or comments. Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and call vote, and it'll be done in roll call fashion via alphabetical order. Councilor Castillo, please. I couldn't hear you, sir. Could you try one more time?
Councilor Castillo, I vote yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Councilor Drago.
Counselor Drago, yes.
Okay, Councilor President Knudsen.
Counselor Knutson, yes.
Councilor Inman.
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.
Councilor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Counselor Prochu,
Counselor Prochu votes yes.
very good. And Mayor Zettervall also votes yes. Are there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. That moves us to item 6F, resolution number 2020-07, establishing Section 3 affirmative action policy. Manager Ember.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another step that we are taking in order to be eligible for a first draw against the $400,000 grant that we were awarded for the rural housing rehab program, the CDBG grant.
Okay, thank you. Counselors, are there any questions for Manager Ember? Hearing and seeing none, I am suggesting a motion, please.
I move that the city council adopt resolution 2020-07, establishing a section 3 affirmative action policy.
Very good. Thank you, Counselor Casilla. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Counselor McReynolds. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further comments or questions? Okay, I will entertain the vote at this point. Counselor Castillo,
Counselor Castillo, I vote yes.
Counselor Drago,
Counselor Drago, yes.
Counselor President Knudsen,
Counselor Knudsen, yes.
Counselor Inman,
Counselor Inman, yes.
very good. Counselor McReynolds Jr.,
Counselor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Counselor Prochu,
Counselor Prochu votes yes.
very good. Mayor Zettervall also votes yes. Are there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. That moves us to item number 6G, resolution 2020-08, Creswell Language Access Plan. Manager, this one goes to Madeline Phillips.
Good evening, counselors. Similar to the item that you just heard before, item 6F, this is another one of the first draw requirements for us to receive the RHRP, the Rural Housing Repair Program grant. It simply lays out a method by which the city staff will use to identify folks that have language. They're a limit language access individual, and there are some cards that the census has developed over the years to help people identify what language they speak, and we can, through the magic of consulting services over the internet, provide them with all of their materials in translated language, so it's easy for them to access those programs, especially this one. So I submit it for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Appreciate that. Councilors, are there any questions on this item?
I will throw out a quick question if I may.
Go ahead.
I believe if I was reading the resolution summary there that there were no financial implications, but there would be a cost associated with providing the service, right?
There would be, Counselor Prochu. It would be an on-demand as needed cost. So we would only be charged if we needed to use the service.
Okay. Which is not a problem. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out, though.
Councilors, any further questions? Okay, hearing none, I am entertaining a motion on item 6G.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I move that the city council adopt resolution 2020-08, a resolution adopting a language access plan for the city of Cresswell.
Very good. The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Drago. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and call the roll for the vote. Councilor Castillo,
Alonzo Castillo, I vote yes.
Councilor Drago,
Counselor Drago, yes.
Councilor President Knudsen,
Counselor Knutson, yes.
Councilor Inman,
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.,
Counselor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Councilor Prochu,
Councilor Proto votes yes.
and Mayor Zetterval also votes yes. Are there any dissenting votes on this item? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. That leads us up to our last action item tonight, which is item 6H. Authorize $30,000 from the planning and land use budget to be used for small business microloans and authorize the city manager to develop a microloan program. Manager Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize that this is a little bit amorphous, but I had to prepare this a week ago. And in that week, a lot has happened. In fact, today I was on a conference call with the Business Oregon, and it looks like Business Oregon, well, they have put out a grant process that specifically addresses entities that are offering these kind of loan programs as a COVID-19 emergency loan. The state has released $5 million that could be a match, up to 1-to-1 match. So the idea would be that if the city of Cresswell were to approve this, we could ask for a match of 1-to-1 and leverage our $30 into $60,000. The question that I have for you, in addition to any other questions you might have for me, is would you even want to, if we were able to leverage it, would you want to put more money in the fund? And let me tell you a little bit more about what we're talking about. I'm working with RAIN and with the county, and I've also talked with LCOG. And it looks like there's regional interest in getting a loan program together that would be managed through Community Lending Works. However, Community Lending Works has a $100,000 lower limit on the size of an account that they will manage. So nobody in our group has $100,000 laying around for Community Lending Works. So we talked with the communities. We got on the phone, a conference call with Oak Ridge, Lowell, Florence, Cresswell, and Bonita. And we got together and we still couldn't scrape up $100,000. So, but with this additional match from the state, we probably can do $100,000. So I guess my question to you is, are you supportive of putting city money into this program? And is it $30,000 or would it be more than $30,000?
Okay, councilors, any questions and comments for Michelle?
My concern is it's being ran by the city, correct? All the money's been yeah, I'm all for helping people and doing what I can during all of this, but I just don't know about the city being the one like in charge of the loans.
Right. No, the city would not be doing that. The city would be providing the capital. And that, I think, is a really good point, Counselor. I do not want to manage the loans. I don't want to pick who gets a loan and who doesn't get a loan. I don't want to know that much about the finances of our local businesses. I don't think it's any of our business. I think that our local businesses don't think it's any of government's business either. And I respect that. What my hope is right now there's a couple of avenues. One is to do this consortium approach, and it would be managed by Community Lending Works. So what we would do is we'd say, that there's $30,000 available over at Community Lending Works. Please go over there and check it out and, and see if you can get some of the money. The money from the state comes with some parameters that were not mentioned in the staff report that I provided. I just found out about them today. One of them is that the state money cannot go to anybody with more than 25 employees. It cannot go to anyone who's already received some kind of federal aid, whether that's PPP or the emergency assistance loans. And it has to go to people that have been underrepresented. So that's Black, Latino, female, and so it would be underrepresented populations. So that would be only on our side. We could. My hope was that we could put as much. We could use the parameters that I put forward. The match part from the state can only be used for grants. And what I want to propose is microloans. I like a revolving microloan because I think in the long run we can use that as an incentive for people to in their businesses here in Cookeville over the long term. I don't see this microloan fund becoming something something that goes away and is only for the COVID-19. I want to see it continue on. So that's a very long answer to your question, I guess, about whether or not the city would run it. If we don't go with the consortium, I've also talked with LCOG, and they're working on some, they're working on some possibilities for us as well. The terms aren't as good as going with Community Lending Works would be, but maybe we could work out something there. The other thing is if you say, okay, and we're going to let you, Michelle, make this happen, and I can't make it happen, then the money doesn't get spent. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
How much more money are you thinking about that you're thinking about putting in?
Well, if we put in 50,000 and we get a match of a 50,000, that's $100,000 for our community.
That's a lot. That's good.
It is. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that would help a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking small loans too. Very small loans.
So would say a business, for example, were to qualify for some of these funds, would they have the choice to choose from the grant funds that the state provides or the microloan that the city provides?
I would think that would be my preference. Like I said, I want to put together a loan program, not a grant program. The other thing is the grant program, the money has to go out by the end of June or we have to pay the money back. Probably we'll find, that means we'd have to find someone who needs $50,000 worth of assistance, or several businesses that want a grant, which I think it's easier to sell a grant than a loan. But the thing I like about the loan is that it carries some dignity. If you make it through this time and you repay your loan, and the terms through microlend or through Community Lending Works are really reasonable. For the first 6 months, you don't make any payments. And then the second 6 months, you make interest-only payments. And then the next year, you start paying the principal and the interest. So it's really designed for success, even though we've had some hard times. But I think maybe the combination is a good idea as well, because I know we have some businesses here who have not been able to obtain funding because they just don't look good on paper. And I think the grant program might be suitable for them and the loan program would be suitable for others.
Well, that raises some interesting thoughts. Councilors, any questions?
I guess I would throw out a couple of questions of my own, if I may. The money that we were proposing to use as a catalyst here would be the 30,000 savings from the position that was not refilled or the shifting in position. So if we go up to 50,000, where does that come from?
It would still come from the same area of the budget. It just would reduce our ending fund balance by an additional $20,000 or the beginning fund balance for next year by $20,000.
Okay, I see. Be like a split.
No, it would mean that we would end with $20,000 less this year and which means we begin with less. We're missing $20,000 next year at the beginning of the year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And then.
We have
just the
sufficient,
same.
I'm sorry, just to follow that up, I think it's important that you know, and Jim can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have sufficient ending fund balance to absorb that money.
Okay. And then the additions I have are just the ones I commented on in email. Sorry, they came a little late. Usually I
No,
try to
they were
give it
great.
more time. Yes, so I would say that I would qualify eligibility requirement number 1, and that the Crestwell address be a in city limits Crestwell address.
Yes.
And my thoughts on eligibility item number 5 is that I think that we would be severely limiting ourselves if we required that there was a mentor relationship with RAIN or the Small Business Development Center. So I'm proposing that we strike that requirement.
Yeah, the reason why I'm suggesting that is because there does need to be some sort of relationship that the people have with the loan. Not necessarily a previous relationship, but an agreement to enter into that kind of mentorship afterwards. That makes sure that we get the loan paid back. But for the grant, yeah, I would think none of that is really necessary. And if the city council agrees that it's not necessary, we can drop that. But I think it's prudent to leave it in for at least after they're awarded the grant amount or the loan amount.
Okay. So the motion right now is only speaking to a loan, but are you thinking that the amended motion would be loans and grants?
Yeah, I think I would, you know, what I would recommend, and I don't know if this is going to be very easy to do, but I would recommend that the motion would be to go ahead and authorize me to do a $30,000 microloan program with the understanding that if we can leverage the state funding, if we are awarded a match, that we will put $50,000 in there. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what I would recommend it. That way, if we don't get the loan, if we don't get the state match, 30,000. But if we do get the state match, then we've got 100,000 to deal with. So I'll work really hard.
I have a question. Oh,
Kevin, did you want to finish first?
Well, we'll just need to figure out what the language of that motion will sound like when we get ready to do it. So.
Right. I apologize. Like I said, I found out about this information today, so.
That's cool.
Okay, Councilor Knudsen, did you have a question?
I did. So when you were first discussing this, you talked about eligibility being towards an underrepresented business owner, including people of color and women, etc. I don't see that in the memo anywhere as an eligibility requirement.
Right. That is for the state portion of the funds. The state will require that for the grant portion of the funds, but we can make the loan a little bit more liberal if we want, or you can direct me to follow the state guidelines.
So if we go for the grant matching with the state, then we have to follow their eligibility requirements?
Only for the portion of the funding that they provide.
Okay.
So if we say we decided to do the 50-50, 50,000 would be grants and would follow the state rules, and 50,000 would be a loan and would follow more or less the rules as amended with the suggestion from Councilor Prachu about the address being inside the city limits.
Okay. As a woman of color, I can appreciate that caveat, but I also don't want businesses that are in our small town that don't fit under those guidelines to be excluded.
Right.
I find, if we were in a larger city, sure. We just don't have a lot of small business owners here. And I don't want any of them to be excluded based off of their race or color, including your average white man. So
Unfortunately, with the state, we have no ability to amend that. Everybody asked that from every different direction because in rural communities, that's often the case. They're pretty homogeneous. But the state money is $5 million and it's going to be split 60-40 with 60% going to rural areas. So, but then it's going to be released in 2 tranches. The first tranche will be 2.5 million and the second 2.5 million because they plan on learning from the first one. You know, whether or not they've crafted it correctly, and they may find that some of these remote areas that they want to get the money out to, they don't have enough women owners or people of color.
right.
Oregon's not terribly diverse.
May I make a comment?
Yes, you may.
Um,
I will return in just a moment. Sorry for the delay there. I had to get my battery charger. I was down to 2% and I didn't realize it.
Oh, no.
And I didn't want to just go invisible all of a sudden. All right, so is there any further comments or questions?
well, I just wanted to make a brief comment. Council President Knudsen, I appreciate your desire for equanimity and the serving that the fund should serve everyone. And typically the workaround in these parts is that businesses are put also the wives are included. And if you look at the application for 285 East Oregon Avenue, the wife is a 51% owner and the husband's 49 on that. So a lot of the businesses you want to see the money going to are going to have a woman-owned person on record. Give them access.
I have some concerns about being in business a year, because I know people like, they've been in business, but not like under the current name or whatever. And I know when they come back, they need significant financial help also, but they wouldn't qualify for it. Isn't that correct?
They would qualify for the state grant. They wouldn't qualify for the loan.
Okay.
Counselors, any thoughts or questions?
Well, I would just like to see this ball rolling and like done, because businesses are suffering and they need this money like yesterday. So I'm all for it if we can get it going as soon as possible and just let Michelle handle the execution of everything.
Okay. Michelle, I have one further comment or question, actually, is what it boils down to. So say, for example, the city were to put up the 30,000 and have that go towards getting at the grant portion as well in the same $30,000 denomination. When you said you discussed with other cities, what are their capabilities and can they make up? So that would put 60,000 of the 100,000 from the city of Crestwell. Is there enough funds from other cities who have expressed interest to capture the remaining 40,000?
No. Well, they would like to, but they, this comes late in the year for a lot of cities. We kind of were fortunate in that we had a position we couldn't fill. or didn't fill, and that's the only reason why we can put this amount of money into it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be talking to you at all. The thing about us taking a leadership position on this is that it opens up an ability for all of them then to tag on to the process, and have Community Lending Works manage. I think Lowell said $5,000. Oak Ridge was looking at 10 to 12. Veneta was unsure how much they could come up with. And I think that we all agree that those small towns, even, a $500 loan might be valuable. To some, to a nail shop that wants to reopen and buy PPE and things like that after being closed for 2 months. I'm sorry about the traffic noise. But, we did not come up with $50,000 altogether to apply for the loan. So that's why I was thinking that, if we went with $50,000, we could then apply for the match and get to $100,000 and assure that we would have a program. And then everyone else could just tag on to our program for their communities.
Okay,
So we would kind of be the lead agency.
But the $100,000 that Crestwell would put in combination with the state funding would then go specifically toward Crestwell. Am I correct on that?
Right, only for Crestwell. And it would be held separate. I already made sure of that. We could look at 40,000. It wouldn't have to be 50. But then we're depending on the other cities. And they're not going to take action until June. And so that holds us up until June. If we go ahead and do 100,000 today, I can turn around tomorrow and tell them to start the program.
Right, and I tend to agree with what Councilor President Knudsen said as well, that, our businesses need help. And believe me, Michelle and I have been working tirelessly to try and find ways to help our small businesses, and this is by far the best way to go. So
I think it is.
Seeing that we absolutely have the opportunity to create the fund for Community Lending Works and reach that $100,000 capital investment to make their project a go. This is something that I never even dreamed possible. So this to me is really exciting. I really wasn't sure if we were going to have opportunity to do much. So this is very, very, makes me very happy.
Yeah, the state just actually today announced it. So it's like, well, let's jump on it. And it's really nice to have RAIN to help us with the application, as well as Community Lending Works to actually do the facilitation of the program.
Right.
And I think jumping on it is important before the money is gone.
Right. This is 2.5 million statewide, so we got to get on it. The application is due Friday.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, councilors, any further questions? If not, then I would like to have Manager Amberg discuss how she would like the motion read, and then I would entertain a motion on this item. Okay, no further questions, it sounds like. So Michelle, how would you like a councilor to propose this motion?
Well, if we want to be the lead agency, I think that the suggested motion should be, I move that the city council authorize $30,000 from the planning and land use budget to be used for small business micro loans, and increase that amount to $50,000 if a state match is, if a state one-to-one match is available. And authorize the city manager to develop a microloan program, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, very good. That being said, I am entertaining that motion, please.
I'll do it. I
Okay.
move that the city council authorize $30,000 from the planning and land use budget to be used for a small business microloan, and authorize increase of $50,000 if there's a state one-to-one match is available, and that the city manager develop a microloan program and execute all documents associated with the program.
Perfect.
Okay, very good. A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Castillo. I will go ahead. Is there any further discussion?
Does that ensure that our requirement for the business to be in the city limits is also included?
Yes, I'll make sure that that's part of the program.
Thank you.
I'll amend that, and it's in the minutes, so it's noted.
And just to clarify, Michelle, I think you spoke about, you would like to continue even after the COVID is over,
Yes,
right?
so it will be
And that-
coming back to you.
And that stipulation would still be in place, correct? For businesses in Crestwell?
Yes.
Okay,
That would
thank
be
you.
perfect. That would be my intent.
Okay, very good. Any further comments or questions, council? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and call the roll call vote. Councilor Castillo,
Counselor Castillo, I vote yes.
Councilor Drago,
Counselor Draco, I vote yes.
Council President Knutson,
Counselor Knutson, yes.
Councilor Inman,
Counselor Inman, yes.
Councilor McReynolds Jr.,
Counselor McReynolds Jr., yes.
Councilor Prochu,
Councilor Brochu, and I'm pleased to vote yes on this.
Mayor Zetterball votes an enthusiastic yes, so I too echo your thoughts. Is there any dissenting votes? Hearing none, the motion passes on that item for 7-0. And yeah, really great. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your trust in me. I'm going to try and get us the best, absolute best program we can have and make sure that it is a legacy of this council.
Yeah, that'd be nice because it's such a trying time for everyone, and it would be wonderful to be able to see some of our businesses be able to be the recipient of these funds and be able to survive this crisis. That would be a dream come true. So we have reached the end of our agenda. We have a couple of upcoming minutes. On May 18th, we have the Urban Renewal Budget Committee meeting at 6 o'clock, followed immediately by the Budget Committee meeting. Both of those meetings will be telephonic and we'll be back here in person next Monday night. So I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for your attention to detail and everybody's hard work. Greatly appreciated. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks for all your hard work and thanks your staff.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody's been doing such a great job. They're the
Yeah,
best.
they're amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.